when you know everything, it's bigger than, obviously you're not learning anymore because you know everything, but you're also not able to relieve yourself of any kind of pressure. So not only are you not learning, but you're taking more pressure than anybody in the world because you already know everything.
Very good. Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Anders Varner. That's Doug Larson. Adam von Rothfelder. We are inside the octagon at Alliance MMA in San Diego, California with two-time Bantamweight champ.
That's me.
Dominick Cruz. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, welcome to my show.
This is awesome. Honestly, this is the first time I've ever stepped in a cage.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
which is probably pathetic, one.
I don't think it's
Considering I'm
pathetic.
the
I think
only-
that's the wrong word usage.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it's just sad that you haven't had more options to do it.
Yeah, well,
They're everywhere.
Adam,
You said your
fighter.
first wrestling match like 10 minutes ago.
I know.
Yeah.
Look, here's what I'm really looking
That
for.
went well.
I just want like a small amount of cauliflower ear so people know I mean business, but no real background, nothing to back it up.
Well, what we can do is we can hit you in the head with dumbbells.
There you go.
There we go.
And
I was
then you
telling
get the best of both worlds because,
Yeah.
you could say it was a powerlifting accident.
Right?
There you go. I like.
Okay.
I was telling him the
Win-win.
towel. I was
Yeah.
telling him to take the towel and you rub your ears with the towel.
Really looking forward to digging in kind of the mental game. We've been through a bunch of injuries, coming back from that, and coming back to be champ after multiple ACLs, broken ribs, the works, and where your head's at, going through those injuries, and just how we're able to progress into getting back into the ring here.
Yeah, I'm really curious how you stay in shape, like going through multiple injuries. Like I fought MMA for a very short period of time, and I had injuries along the way, and like I always felt like I was getting out of shape whenever I was hurt.
Yeah.
And if you're fighting, you're almost always hurt in some capacity, and I know that's been true for you in some respects.
I think that would probably be the key to the whole situation with injuries is understanding how to train while you're injured.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if you're a pro athlete, you're going to get injured. It's just eventually you're going to get injured. Excuse me. And as a pro athlete, I guess the question is, I always revert everything back to general society. Like the general average person is working 40 hours a week to pay their bills. As a mixed martial artist, you make your own money only when you compete. So if you only make your money when you compete, then where the money's actually made is in between the competition because you have to stay consistent like everybody else who works 40 hours a week. That's the general average for just somebody who's not a high-level athlete. So if they're working 40 hours a week, I should be putting in at least, that type of work into my body to prepare it. Whether I'm hurt or not, it doesn't stop. If I'm an athlete, my only job is to be an athlete.
Yeah.
So if I'm hurt, does that mean I'm not an athlete anymore? That's kind of the question. Then comes, okay, well, I'm still an athlete since I'm hurt, so I still have to exercise that way when I come back. I'm not just, a pile of putty. You got to be strong. You got to have everything around the injury has to be strong like it was before you got injured so that when you come back, you're not all lopsided and offset. So all that being tied into one equation, it pretty much comes down to staying consistent with whatever the injury is and making sure that you're keeping your base set. The base is how I refer to it to my athletes, the guys that I train with, as the primer to the paint job. So before I paint a big white house and I want to paint it red, I'm not just going to put one layer of paint on there and expect the house to be red, right? I have to put primer first. I have to set it up. I have to prepare the house. So I got to sandpaper it. Then after I sandpaper it, then I got to put the primer down. Probably not just one coat, probably two coats. Probably one coat of white, and then I got to dye the primer red so that when I put the second coat of primer red on there, then I can paint over the top of that. So how many coats does it take before I even get to start the paint job? 3 coats of just base. So I'm constantly working my base 24/7. That's always there. So that's an hour minimum of nonstop work, whatever it may be, running, biking, swimming, lifting, running, biking, swimming all at once, whatever it may be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do an hour straight. Now I got my base set. So no matter what my exercise is, I have an hour nonstop with no breaks of energy in my muscles, in my body, in my system, in everything. And now with that, I haven't hit the red zones yet. The red zones are what I call the high RPMs. That's like sprinting. That's like fighting. That's like wrestling live. That's any live work, right? Supersets, stuff like that is what I consider red zone stuff. You work that once your base is set. That's putting the paint down. So first I just set all my primer, set all my bases, and then once the base is set, the red zone stuff's the easy part.
Yeah.
And honestly, I know it might have seemed a little crazy, everything I just said all at once, but I mean, the base is key, otherwise you get hurt when you come back from an injury.
Yeah.
So like, I'm not doing any red zone stuff right now. I'm not doing any live. I'm not doing any sparring. I'm not doing any supersets. All I'm doing is base work. So right now I grappled for about an hour and a half, nonstop, limited breaks in between, and I'm just setting my base. And now I'm still a little bit hurt. So if I go any harder,
you got a broken arm, right?
Yeah, I broke my arm about 4 months ago. So I'm just taking it easy with that. But now when this finally stops hurting, the day it stops hurting, I'm ready to go live. I don't have to ease into it because I've already done the easing into it.
So you feel like your base is cardiovascular in nature? Is that what you're referencing? You mentioned a bunch of endurance activities for the most part.
Well, for fighting, yes. For fighting, because I mean, all my fights, I'm in the top 5 of the division, so they're usually going to be about 5-minute rounds usually, and 5 of them.
Right.
So that's 25 minutes of fighting.
Of going hard.
Yeah.
Well, that's 25 minutes of red zone. So that's how you got to equate it.
Right.
So like, red zone is considered sprints, right? Do you guys know what I mean by red zone and base, right? Like you got that little heart rate monitor. You got green, yellow, red, right?
Yeah.
Anybody ever seen that here?
Yeah.
Sure.
So like when you're fighting, you're usually in the yellow and red the whole time. There's very light portions where you're in the green. Green is like your rests, maybe rhythm in between the scrambles. So I'm keeping my green and yellow base set for an hour straight. I keep my body at that work rate, right? Boom, working. And then when I finally get done building that base in the green and yellow zones of my heart rate, that's my cardiovascular base. Now that I have that, I can go into the red zones once my body's strong enough.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you speak of that type of training philosophy, has that changed in any way as you've gotten older with coming back from an injury? As like your first injury was, 5 years ago? Was it your first ACL tear? 5 MCL at the same time?
Definitely.
I mean, it's different because you're not the same person you were physiologically. So it's like it's hard to break away from that mental.
Well, realistically, that's the biggest thing you have to get away from is everybody, not saying you said it, but this is the key. What you just said is actually a huge step in this. It's in your brain. So the number one thing you said is, well, you're not the same physiologically. Yes and no. That's true. But who's to say I'm not just better? Everybody assumes that because of injuries, because of years, because of age, I'm automatically declining. That's not necessarily true if you're doing the right stuff. And so the key is understanding that while you're not the same physiology, while your physiology is not the same, it could have improved over all this time with injuries, time out, not getting punched in the head, doing rehab, doing stretching, making sure I'm swimming and not wrestling 24/7. All these things change the body chemistry and make me healthier or more unhealthy. So my key is always knowing that I am heading towards the direction of being better than I was the year before, every single fight. So what do I got to do to make that key? Set my base, make sure my body's healthy. I believe that as long as I'm healthy, I'm the best in the world. I've proven that. I have systems set up that have proven that. So now it just comes down to that. Health, cardiovascular, it has to be at an all-time high at all times. And then strength, athleticism, rhythm, timing, all that stuff comes in camp.
A lot of the stuff comes down to the work ethic too. Like I like that when you look at fighters, that you talk about a 40-hour work week. That's not right. You're 24 hours a day. That's sleep, nutrition, every ounce of everything that you're putting into it goes well beyond 8 hours. And the consistency and the mental game that goes into that of just staying on the path. Where does some of that stuff come from for you?
It's actually a good point. And I guess the way that I could break down what you just said is I don't look at it as 24 hours of work.
Yeah.
I kind of look at it as drinking water or going to the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's just like your next foot goes in front of the other, and if I don't do it, my job doesn't get done.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're right. I didn't actually think about it that way, but you're right. My whole life is 24 hours because, for instance, you pay for every single thing that goes into your body when you're training as hard as we do in here. Yeah, I'm doing, on average, 4 to 5 hours per day and that's a split shift. So I'll do 1 in the morning. I rest in between. Now it's hydrate, recarb up, get your protein in, get your calories in, get everything right back to where it was when you woke up in the morning, all fresh and ready to train for your second session. It's no longer, all right, I'm done training now. I'm going to go hang out at the beach and have a free day. And, you know, I'm going to go stretch and hang out with my lady friends and go watch a movie and go shopping. Oh, I'm going to go shopping. Oh, I can't wait to go to the grocery store and buy. Hell no. Like, I got done training, and I'm going to go home and lay like I'm a mummy in my tomb and just hope that my body feels okay by the next workout. You know what I mean? Just pray that I wake up and I'm like, ooh, I got extra juice today. Like, I'm fresh. Because there's those days you wake up, and I'm telling you, it's like the worst feeling on earth, just getting up. Like, how am I supposed to go do this second session? I got 12 rounds of mitts with my coach, and they're going to switch every round, so they're going to be fresh, and I'm going to be tired, and I have to find it in me. So, like, there's those days where everybody thinks that it just comes natural to us, but it just doesn't. It's just a matter of, you know, doing what you got to do to get that, get up and do that second workout. And
well, everything's progression, and it'd be interesting to see how you kind of layer this stuff in with your athletes, because the 24 hours becomes a thing. It starts out, you're just in the gym enjoying your life as a kid, and then all of a sudden you have your first fight, you're like, man, maybe I need to up it a little bit.
Yeah.
Then injuries show up, and you have to go back and to the drawing board and figure it out. When you're coaching athletes, up-and-coming fighters, how are you kind of layering in all of these lessons in which the things you take for granted in your life right now, nobody else really knows about? So what's the communication with your athletes on, like, hey, these are the little pieces that no one sees behind the scenes. It's not just in the gym that I'm starting to think about these things. It's when I get out of bed, I know everything is going to happen. There's a system to my morning. I get to the gym, I know exactly what's going to happen. How do you start to talk to your athletes about that stuff?
Honestly, that has to be something that they notice on their own and change on their own, because that's the hardest part about being a professional, is that nobody's here to babysit you.
Yeah.
That's literally it. Like, none of us here. I'm a multiple-time world champion, and any of these guys that come in here, I'm not telling them what to do at all. I'm simply giving them, like, what I did, and it's your choice if you want to take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Period. It's all here for them. You got Phil Davis, you got me, you got Jeremy Stevens, you got my coach Eric Del Fierro, you got multiple world champs, high-level coaches, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, black belts, all over the place. Whatever facet you want to be in, you've got it here.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to ask the questions and pay attention to the people that you know have been successful, and find out, all right, what makes Phil Davis successful? Is he just a freak athlete and that's the only reason, so nobody can be Phil? No, there's something about what he did. There's a system he built that's made him successful. It's not just him being a freak athlete, because there's too much to learn. There's too much to do.
Yeah.
There's too many patterns that have made him successful to not pay attention to one of those patterns. And that's what I encourage these athletes to do. I don't tell them what to do. I tell them to pay attention, ask questions, focus. You have to make these little decisions on your own, because if you don't, you'll never be a champion. That's what separates everybody.
I love that too. Like, there's no sign on the door that says, hey, we're really fucking awesome in here. You should come train. There's like a culture of that here. When you walk around, you're like, oh, that guy, I know him. I've seen him.
And we don't need to say it. You come in.
There's an expectation when you walk in the door that you better show up and be here today.
And we don't even care if you're here, honestly. We don't. We don't care if you're here.
It's a choice.
It's your choice. Because guess what? That person on the other side of the cage doesn't care if you skipped or not.
Yeah.
And neither do we, because we're not the person on the other side of the cage. We're here to prepare you for that person, whoever it may be, on the other side of the cage. And we're here that if you're panicking, we'll help you take away the panic. If you're getting choked out every day, we'll make sure we teach you how to not get choked out in that position so that we fix it. It's not our job to tell you to come every day. If you can't show up on your own, then you're not a professional.
Yeah.
We don't need to. It's not our job.
Yeah, I mean,
Do you find that you still have a student mentality yourself, even being a world champion? You're still asking guys like Phil and guys like Eric, what do you guys think, and still trying to learn on a daily basis?
Well, the second you try to know everything, not only, I think that's the beginning of the end for you, because what you got to understand, it's bigger than, excuse me, when you know everything, it's bigger than, obviously you're not learning anymore because you know everything, but you're also not able to relieve yourself of any kind of pressure. So not only are you not learning, but you're taking more pressure than anybody in the world because you already know everything. So who are you going to revert some of your stress onto if you already know? Like, how am I going to confide in somebody? How am I going to relax if I can't talk to anybody because I know everything already? Like, just relax. You don't know anything because every day is a problem, a new one. So it's a brand new one every single day. So I wake up with that notion. And like I said, I just mentioned all the people I can confide in with any one of my problems.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, putting gas in my car. Sometimes it's changing a tire. Sometimes it's being lonely. Sometimes it's I can't get out of this, this position. I get stuck here every single day, and I'm not. It just every single guy I go with, I get stuck here. How do I fix it? It's always something different. So you got to figure out a way to adjust. But if you know everything, and then you can't ask questions to other people because you already know. Mm-hmm. And then you also can't learn anything because you can't ask questions because you already know. So you don't know shit.
Yeah.
Just remember that.
But in that case, you'd have to admit that you didn't know, which would look bad, and then now you got the ego hit.
That's the problem. The biggest issue of society today is ego, in my opinion. Just ego, period. Mm-hmm. If you can just set that aside, and we all have it. I have it. I'm fighting it every day. We all fight it. Like, it's just what's in us. Because if you don't have an ego, what are you using to drive yourself, kind of, like, right? Like, I'm hyped because I'm better than that guy, and I know I'm better than that guy.
Right.
Like, that hypes you up, kind of. But when can you say, okay, but he kind of is better than me here because he keeps choking me in this one position. So why is he why is he better than me here, though?
It's a very tangible way to know someone's winning as you're blacking out.
Right, I swear, because I can't tell you how many times I've been there. I'm like, oh, I'm going to kill this guy today. And then I double leg him. I'm in a guillotine. And I'm like, okay. Well, I mean.
This is not how I envisioned it.
Yeah, this isn't right. Okay. All right, so I get up. I tapped. And now I'm like, all right. So I did smoke him the rest of the day, let's say. He didn't do one thing to me. Maybe I choked him 35,000 times and he got me once. What did he do on that one that took away my ego for a second? Let's hold on to that.
Yeah.
And then keep that feeling and watch how much better you get instead of holding on to all the wins.
Right. And what happens when you hold on to the losses?
Well, then that's the other problem.
Right.
You can hold on to losses too, and I'm coming off a loss right now, and being as somebody coming off a loss, and then I get injured. So I'm supposed to come back, get going on the win streak again, and then I break my arm. It's like, man, talk about doubling down on the negative, right? But I can sit here and just stress and be panicked and be mad and be sad, but it's out of my control. It happened for whatever reason, so I'm just going to build. And I'm building around what I can with what I got. And I'm doing it now slowly but surely. And then I'll get back to full health, and I'll get back to fighting condition, and I will fight again, 100% positive in my mind. I've already made the decision. So it's just be patient and let everything take its course.
You mentioned earlier lonely. That's a strange word for someone that's a two-time world champ.
Is it?
And rolling around on the floor all
and
the time.
Yeah. And where like that? Yeah, that's not the most. I would say maybe it is very common, but very few people want to talk about it. What's
well, that's the ego.
Yeah,
that's the ego. It's hard because it's
when
embarrassing.
When you learn that lesson,
it's embarrassing to admit that you've been lonely, right? I mean, who wants to say that?
Depends who you are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people.
But
can't
the expression is it's lonely at the top. Like it's an expression for a reason, I'd imagine.
But not a lot of the people at the top. You'll never hear them say that. They got money, and it's always perfect. Social media always paints a perfect picture. Nobody ever paints that day that they're lonely and puts that on social media, do they?
Right.
It just doesn't happen because social media is a giant ego for every single person there is. That is the picture of what everybody sees as themselves. And the one thing you don't see is who they are on social media. So
it's the highlight reel of who they want you to think they are.
It's the ego. It's it's a mirror of who everybody thinks they are to an extent. And we all do it because that's the world we're in. So how do we stay in touch with both? Because you do need both. You got to have social media. You got to have that picture out there to promote. And then how do we stay in touch with reality? It's hard, but the lonely thing comes just from trying to make the right decisions as much as you can, I guess. You start feeling yourself slowly separate onto a little island the more of the right direction you try to go. Mm-hmm. And then your circle gets smaller and smaller and smaller until you realize that you and a couple people think this way. Excuse me.
You're good.
You and a couple people think this way. And you feel just alone after a while. You start to feel like when you talk about this stuff, people look at you a little crazy and they're like, ego, what? I mean, and then you're just like, oh, you don't want to.
That's their own fear of dealing it with themselves. Yeah.
It's hard. And nobody wants to do it.
Yeah,
it's self-work. It's self-reflection. It's putting a mirror in front of your face and looking at yourself and going, oh, I do suck. You know?
And what's the best way, I mean, knowing your story and that I had a crazy series of injuries fighting myself, and I associated so heavily with being a fighter that I didn't know who I was without fighting.
Yeah, that's what I mentioned.
Because people said, this is Adam, my fighter friend. That's how everybody introduced me, and then one day I was no longer the fighter friend. I wasn't even friends with these people.
Isn't it interesting when that happens and you don't even realize that it had happened?
Yeah.
That's exactly how it is there's a lot of fighters. That's exactly how it goes, and the next thing you know, boom, that's done, and you realize that when they stop calling you that and people stop recognizing you as that and people just know you as that and, oh, but you're hurt.
Yeah.
Then you go, oh, shit.
More
that's
like
all
broken.
I was.
Right.
Like, wow. Like, oh, yeah, this is my fighter friend, but he's hurt. He'll be back. What if he's not back? What is he now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like your whole identity.
He's just
wrapped
broke.
up.
He's just a broke what? He's just like you're a tire on a car that's flat, and you're just going to be flat forever.
Yeah.
That's how you see yourself. So what if you're a tire and that's your only identity and you're just flat forever?
Yeah.
How do you going to stay flat or are you going to find a fix it? So that's what happens a lot to fighters, and I think it's because it's easy to get stuck in this routine where I show up in the morning, go home, chill out, come back at night, show up, go home, and you do that for 2 years and then you get hurt, and then what else? You've done that for so long, and not only is that a habit, but it's who you are, and fighting is such a focused thing that if you have anything else, it takes away from fighting. So what you tend to do as a fighter is just cut everything out.
Yeah.
Everything. Family, girls, food, water, sometimes. Like everything. So when that happens, friends, like when that happens, and then you get hurt, what do you have? You got no identity, you've got no career, you've got no friends, you've got no family, you've got nothing. And that's what happens with a lot of injuries. That's what happens with a lot of pro athletes. So the key to that is having something bigger than your career. I mean, you gotta have more to you than just your career. You gotta have, like, what else makes us happy, I guess, right? I came to that. That's the only reason I'm talking about it, and you asked me.
Yeah.
Like, I came to a point where I didn't have all that stuff, and I was like, wow, it was a crappy position where you realize you just don't have a job. And as men, if we're not, what did Chris Rock said? He said there's only a couple things that get love no matter what, and that's kids and women. Men, we only get love if we provide something.
Yeah.
Unconditional love.
Yeah.
Only two things again, a couple things again, unconditional love. Men, women, and pets. Women, children, and pets.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Women, children, and pets. And men, we get love if we provide something. That's the unconditional love we get. So then you lose your job, and then you're no longer providing. What are we as men? I didn't feel like a man. I just felt useless. So
I was telling my wife one time, like, when a guy loses his job, that's the equivalent of a really attractive female being like a burn victim temporarily. It's like all of a sudden she loses all of her beauty. Like, who's going to love me now?
I couldn't agree more. But how is that really true? Right? Do people really believe that? Like,
I'd say it shouldn't be true. It'd be nice if it wasn't.
Right.
Nothing is really true, but I think people fall into believing that for a period of time.
Yeah.
I think it's possible to believe that, but it's definitely possible to not believe it as well.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people it's hard for them to get over that type of mindset. And I think the more it happens, probably the better you can adapt to it. Just like if you lose one fight, you're like, man, no one's ever gonna think I'm a great fighter again. And then you come back and you win a couple more fights. So the next time you lose, maybe it's not quite as bad, especially once you lose your O.
Yeah.
I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, you think it's possible to battle through that and not believe that's the case?
Which case? What do you mean?
Well, like if a guy loses his job or a fighter loses, you get injured and now your career is over. Like, some people would fall into that mindset of, like, I'm valueless. Like, I'm not important anymore. I'm not special anymore. Now I'm just Doug now. Who cares about just Doug? I was Fighter Doug or Fighter Adam or Fighter Dom or whatever.
And I think that's exactly what we're talking about, is what you just said. Like, I'm talking about fighting, but it's really just a metaphor as to everybody in the world who goes through this in life, right? You said you went through it. I'm sure we've all gone through it, where you hit that point where you're just like, I'm a loser because I don't have this. We've put too much into this. That's what it comes down to. When really, this should be look inside for us. I know it's getting really deep and weird. I don't want to make it weird.
Oh
but
man,
it's the
get
truth.
weird, dude.
We're here, dude.
It's the truth, though. Like,
Yeah.
if that one thing that you had all your energy into was actually a light that you had on your own spirit, your heart, and your mind, we'd never really need this. We would be this, right? What if we were that? What if we were the focus? We were the happiness. We were the thing that made us happy. Just us, just because we chose to. Not fighting made me that. Like, if that's the key to now when I go back to fighting, because I am the thing that makes me happy without fighting, without anything else. When I go back to fighting, now I can enjoy it because I don't need it. I don't have to have it. It's just a cherry on top to a good life I already live.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized after I got back from the 3 years laid off, is I went through two reconstructive surgeries on my knees, and then I came back and fought a guy named Takaya Mizugaki. I was out for a total of over 3 years, about 3.5 years, without fighting, with the knee surgeries. And I remember coming back, and I was coming down the stairs in Vegas, and I had been interviewing guys for 3 years because I had gone into the commentary and the broadcasting stuff. And when I came down the elevator, they had a camera on me, or the escalator. They had a camera on me coming to baggage down from the plane to San Diego into Vegas, and they're watching me come in, and then they're going to take me to the hotel, and they got me on camera. Well, it was surreal to me because the career had started again right then. I was not videoing somebody else. I was not questioning somebody else. The cameras were here to watch me fight and watch me get ready for my fight after a 3.5-year layoff. So it was really, wow. I didn't even know they were here to do this. Oh. That's how happy I am with life. I don't care about the cameras. I don't care if I'm here and I get to compete. I don't care if I win. I don't care if I lose. I just made it here. I'm not hurt. Like, nothing's hurt. Yeah. I'm here. I'm on the escalator. I'm getting my baggage. I have nothing else to do but cut weight. So 100% fact, I'm showing up to fight in 4 days. That was it. That's all I needed. And when I had that feeling of happiness, like knowing that if I didn't fight, I was okay. And if I did fight, I'd be happier. That's when I realized, okay, I filled a gap somewhere. Like, these injuries did something different. Because before, I would come down that escalator with nothing but fear. Fear, the biggest fear, because I needed to win. Because if I didn't win, I couldn't have a future, and I couldn't have a house, and I couldn't pay my bills, and I couldn't help my mom get out of her house, and I couldn't get my mom paycheck to check, and I couldn't get my brother out of there, and all this stuff because I needed to win because I was a loser. And fighting was going to make me not a loser, and being a champion, I'll have everything I ever wanted. I'll get the car, the girl, all the glamour, all the fame. It'll fix everything. Everybody will love me because I'm champion. Wrong.
Yeah.
All wrong.
This ain't a too short song.
It's all wrong. What happens is you'll be sad because you'll get your title and you'll have it, and you'll be home for a week and realize nothing changed.
Yeah.
Except you got a couple more sponsors.
They got to go promote the next fight. They got to go build the next
They
person.
just move right on. Nothing changes in your life. Like.
Yeah.
I mean, things change here and there. Like, yeah, you might get some new people, but you realize if those new people came with the new title, they're not very good people.
Yeah.
So you learn that too, and
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, there's so much more to it than just you gotta have the love and happiness completely alone with nothing in a box in yourself. And when you have that, everything else around you becomes better.
Strong Coffee Company is a community built by people like you. People that take the time to educate and to apply all things that matter. Whether you're in the gym, the office, or at home, we want to help make you better. Introducing our full, rich, instant nutritional energy drink, the Cafe Latte. Visit strongcoffeecompany.com. Use BBS20 to receive 20% off today.
It's a guarantee. It's just that way.
So where do you, when you think I was Dominick the fighter, now that's just an expression of who I am.
Correct.
What
Yeah,
do you, how do
feel
you
that
see
way.
yourself in this body now? Like what is the purpose behind
this purpose
expression?
now, fighting for me is just helping me to push the limits to how tough and what kind of barriers I can really break in my life.
Becomes an art.
It's an art. It's a martial art. you start to understand it. When I started this thing, it was just piss and vinegar. You're just mad.
Yeah.
A lot of anger. A lot of stuff to get rid of out of my body. Just negative energy to just put onto something. And it worked for a long time. And I got to a very high place on that frequency. And then I hit a point where I blew my body out because I was just I needed it too much, and there was no peace. There's no yin and yang in between it. It was just drive, go, no peace. There was no peace. There was no let off. And so the injuries forced me to learn the peace, forced me to learn the let off, forced me to sit in my body with no other choice except sit on your hands and learn to be calm in your body.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice. This is it. You got 3 years of it. You ready?
Yeah.
No, I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
even
I was
close.
not ready. I was not ready.
You got to watch your own brain. You just sit there
you're
and
trapped. It's
yeah.
like being in a prison cell. I swear to God, when you were working as hard as I was, it's just like you might as well put me in a prison cell. I was just in hell.
Yeah, I that's just like there's like a story in athletics where we just go, and then one day your body's like, you know what? Sorry.
Yeah, you're
This
gonna
isn't
need
gonna
a break.
work
and
anymore.
now your mind is forced to do the
Yeah.
work instead of your body.
Yeah.
And that's what I realized. I go, oh shit, my body's just had enough. So this is a switch in your life where you switch it. Every ounce of championship training I wore my body down with, I switched it to my mind, spirit, and heart. That's it. I just switched it. Boop. And you go, I was sitting in my house with my knee in this thing going, how do you switch the physical to the mind, the body, and the spirit? Or mind, heart, and spirit? How do I even begin that? Like, you can't pick it up and curl it. You can't sprint it. I didn't understand it. I didn't even know where to start. So I needed a lot of help. And that's the first step, is understanding you need it.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
once you understand you need it, you'll do something to find it if you want it bad enough. Otherwise, you'll just sit there and say, oh, I'll figure it out myself, and then nothing will ever happen.
So did you take the same approach to that you take to the physical aspects of MMA, like finding coaches and or training partners
Correct.
or anything
What
that's
else?
the equivalent?
That's why I don't understand why anybody does this sport alone. Like, I've done sports my entire life. The highest level in sports, the highest, NFL, NBA, the most money that's paid, right? Do any of those guys not have a coach? They're still MMA fighters trying to coach themselves.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like the best sports in the world have coaches for a reason.
Yeah.
We can't physically do that to ourselves. So yes, I went and I found what I needed in the mind, the heart, and the spirit that I wanted to mold myself into, just like you would do in the gym industry. If I'm not going to go train with Team Alpha Fail because I don't like their style, why would I want to mold myself into that? I'd rather go train with Team Alliance because what they're doing makes more sense for me, so I'm going to train with them. I'm going to do the same thing with my heart, my mind, and my spirit. Find that person that builds it the way I want. Who has those things in spades that I'm attracted to? What type of person can I stand next to and feel a positive energy of success that I can't really explain, but it's there? Has anybody ever felt that
Oh,
type
yeah.
of person
Yeah,
before?
Totally.
I've felt that. And when I feel that person, those are the type of people that I know can build that part of my life. And they have a certain kind of peace. They don't need to fight every day because they've already figured certain things out that I haven't figured out.
There's
I
a
mean-
great term called the sum of six, where they talk about you're the sum of the six people you spend the most time with, and being able to be around those positive people and how they can help transform your own emotions and personalities and give you those outlets that you need and that rub.
You
know?
hear those things, right? I've heard that too.
Yeah.
And then everybody goes, oh, yeah, the artist takes, surround yourself with good people. Yeah, but why?
Right.
For what? And what do you mean by good people? What's good? Like, be specific.
Right.
Like, extra specific.
In your needs.
In your needs and what you know you want in your mind, your body, or your mind, your heart, and your spirit. You have to know what you want, and what does that mean? What are those three things? Does anybody even know? When was the last time anybody had a conversation about those three things other than just be ready to kill somebody and be strong and be tough and have heart? Everybody says have heart. What does that mean?
Is that what got you to Alliance? Is the search to find somebody that was going to take you to the next level, not just
Correct.
physically, technique-wise or whatever it is,
Eric
but
Del Fiero is what brought me to Alliance, and Brandon Vera.
is that like the embodiment of these things that you were
Well-
seeking and a little bit
Well,
more mindful of a practice?
Eric is one of the guys that agrees with me on everything I'm saying. So he's on the same path I am, but his is different than mine.
Yeah.
But because we're on our own paths looking for the same thing, we're growing together. So that's what we want. So it's working. Excuse me. And when I met Eric, that's what it was. It was that. He was a guy who didn't want to be in my corner and be seen on camera. He just wanted to see me be a world champion, and then he wanted to go hide in the corner after he made me world champion.
What is it like when you walk
That's rare.
down
That's a good dude.
Yeah,
Right.
But you go through this transformation, and what is it like walking into the octagon now versus 3 years ago, 5 years ago, and kind of the mindset of where you're at just entering in? I feel like there has to be a more peaceful, just less aggressive, less I'm just going to come destroy you mentality.
Yeah,
to
there's
what's
been
going
that,
on.
but that's what's hard is that every camp is different. So every camp brings different problems, different stresses, different things that force you to tap into a different type of emotion for whatever reason. So I've had fights where I've been hurt and I've had to tap into emotion in order to get through the pain. And I shouldn't need emotion in any fight. Ideally, I want zero emotion, zero feeling. I want to be open to everything but attached to nothing. That's the goal in a fight. Open to everything, attached to nothing. But if you blow your knee out, I'm going to need to be attached to the anger for you blowing my knee out so that I have the goal to get through it and ignore the pain. Sometimes you got to attach yourself to an emotion just to get through because it's the battle of, you got to pick the worst of the two, right? And I've had that in fights where I've just been so injured going into them that I've just had to attach to something. And then I've had other fights where I've been completely healthy and then I'm in the zero and I'm in the point where I'm open to everything and attached to nothing. And when that happens, that's when I'm me. That's when I'm the real. That's when you can be at your best.
You feel like being overly emotional in a fight leads to just poor decision making?
Like I said, it just depends on where you're at. But generally speaking, yes. Generally speaking, if I had a choice between use emotion or have zero attachment and no emotion, I would always choose zero attachment and no emotion, unless I'm hurt.
Do you think there was a direct...
See what I'm saying? There's a happy medium where you got to kind of find a push because the hurt is more than you can handle, and so you need something to hold on to get you through the pain, and then it's okay to latch onto something.
Do you think there was an emotional correlation between your first string of injuries, because you said you went into all these fights just like a bull with aggression and angst, and you were younger, and then all of a sudden it was, the injuries, was that a manifestation of that amount of pent-up energy? Do you feel like that was like something that had to do with it?
Yeah. I mean, it was because I didn't have that yang part, like I was saying. I had the yin, but not the yang. I was just driving, working. And here's the irony is, I'm doing all that hard work, and everybody goes, dang, he's the hardest worker in the gym. Generally, the hardest worker in the gym is the one who's suffering the most outside of it. Don't forget that.
Yeah.
Because if you can deal with that kind of pain, there's something you're running from. Always.
The gym is their therapy.
That's it. And it's our drug. Anybody who can take the most pain, they can do that plank longer than anybody. They're dealing with some demons. I would almost bet my savings account on it.
Yeah.
Because it takes something different to have the goal to get through a little longer than everybody else. What do you have that I don't? Just pure stubbornness? Where's the stubbornness come from? Some kind of you pull that from something. That comes from somewhere for all of us.
Yeah.
Right on, my man.
Good answer. Yeah.
We got to respect your time. You got to get home.
Thank you, guys. I got to get some rest.
This
I got
was
more
awesome.
workouts to do.
That tomb, is that a real thing? You actually have a tomb?
I just sit like La Mumia.
I super appreciate it, man. This is awesome to kind of
good
get
to talk to
inside
you
the mind of the
I
fighter
don't
here.
know if it's good to get inside of it.
No, it's
but
good.
No, it's good.
Sorry for you guys if I freaked
No.
anybody
No,
out.
I think anytime you're allowed to add depth and you've been through the emotions of a long career, I think very few people probably understand, me being one of them, what it's like to stand in a enclosed
There's
container.
a lot of thought, man.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Well, you're standing, looking someone in the eye, you're like, dude, I got to do this right now.
and there's
You're
a
about to do this to me. We got to figure this thing out because there's a big prize at the
There's
end
a
of it.
lot of thinking
Yeah.
that happens.
And a lot,
yeah.
it doesn't, you didn't get into it because, like, life was so pleasant.
No.
Nobody's like, you know what? This mansion's too much.
Yeah.
I'm going to go try and fight people.
No, that was my point. Maybe it was.
Yeah.
Maybe the mansion was perfect. Why do they have demons from living in that mansion their whole life?
Yeah.
That's the question.
It's true.
Because they will go fight.
Yeah.
Still. BJ Penn grew up with tons of stuff.
Yeah.
They called him one of the more well-off kids out of Hilo. and he was one of the best fighters of all time.
Yeah.
And
Those fights with
what
Sean were
demons
epic.
was he fighting?
Yeah.
You know, what has he got to deal with?
Yeah.
That's for everybody who's dealing with those things to figure out. And if you don't, generally, those are the guys that retire and come back, retire, come back, retire, come back, retire, come back. Because they retire, didn't know they had demons ever, never dealt with the demons ever, and then said, oh, I can't do this real life stuff. I got to go back to run from my demons. Get back in there, maybe take an ass whooping,
Yeah.
and then retire again because they realize they weren't good enough. And then they come back because they still don't want to deal with their demons, and then they're running back and forth, and that's the pro athlete life if you're not careful. Deal with your demons. Love yourself without the sport. Love yourself in a paper box, and then everything else will come to you in success, in my opinion. Just an opinion.
There it is.
Yeah.
Where can people find you?
DominickCruz.com, and on my Twitter as well, Facebook, all that stuff. Dominick Cruz, pretty easy to find. I'm doing the Fox Sports Desk color commentary for the UFC, and you guys can see me at Physical Culture 101 with Tommy every now and then too.
Sweet.
Love it.
Yeah,
Thanks, guys. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Mr. Strong Coffee.
You can check me out at Von Rothfelder or at strongcoffeecompany.com.
Awesome.
Yeah. You can check me out, Douglas E. Larson, on Instagram, and of course everything Barbell Shrugged.
Make sure you follow this guy behind the cam, Colton on the cam at FitzBeCo on Instagram. I'm at Anders Varner. Come and hang out with us at movement-rx.com. Shrugged.thelowbackfix.com. Shrugged listeners saving $20 on their first program. Come and hang out with us. We'll see you here next Wednesday.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Shrugged Collective Program Vault. Over the last 6 years, we've been leading the charge in online strength and conditioning programming and coaching. And for the first time in the history of the Shrugged Collective, we're combining our 11 best-selling long-term and short-term accessory programs into one membership site called the Program Vault. From Olympic weightlifting to strongman, leaning out, nutrition, you name it, our 11 best-selling programs are yours for $47 a month. Get to shruggedcollective.com/vault, and you will find immediate access to our 11 best-selling strength and conditioning programs.